In this video, I'm going to be talking about Adam, or the boy from DNA, and I'm going to be talking about how basically his character works, why they're in the play, and all the things that we can say about Adam / boy in the exam. So firstly, Adam, what's the function of his character? Well, he is the character that everybody thinks is dead. He is the one that was the victim, that the whole play is about covering up his death. Because is he dead, proper dead, not living dead? As Jan and Mark say in the opening scene. Now, we don't see him until Act 3. So he's only in one scene in one act. He is in Act 1, Scene... I said that the wrong way around. Act 3, Scene 3. Don't know why I was saying Act 1. Apologies. Now, basically, he is only in that scene because he gets discovered, and we see Jan and Mark at the start of the play discussing the fact that they found him in the woods. And then we find out that Kathy and Brian, who have very different personalities compared to earlier in the play, in that Brian seems to have lost his sanity a little bit and Kathy now seems to like violence all of a sudden. They're the two that found Adam. And basically they found him living in a hedge and they brought him down here. And the idea is that he is not the same boy as he was before, and that he basically has also lost his senses. But there is a subtle difference between the way that Brian kind of loses himself and Adam loses himself. It is clear that there is visible injuries on Adam. We also know there was the description in Act 1 of some of the things that the group did to him, like stubbing out cigarettes on his arms, on his hands and on his face, and that he was punched in the face for half an hour, 40 minutes. And we know from the stage direction that he's got a cut on his forehead as well, and that he is scared, almost animalistically scared as well. So there's that side effect of Adam's, like all the stuff that's happened to him. But the one thing that is very clear in his monologue is that he remembers his name. He might take a couple of attempts of saying the same word to get the right tense or the right subtle suffix of the word, but actually he kind of gets it and he doesn't want to go back to his old life. Whereas Brian, he forgets his own name at points and he says some really random things like, "Do you feel the sun licking our skin?" and stuff like that. So, obviously the other thing to do with Adam is the fact that after his lovely monologue, Brian takes him back to his hedge, and then Phil and Kathy decide to kill him for realsies this time, and Leah's having none of it. She's finally found her conscience in a way and is trying to stand up for it, but nothing stops. Phil carries on and Kathy's carry on, and they choose to use Brian, who doesn't understand what's going on at the minute, as their way of getting away with murder again, because remember they've already gotten away with it at this point too. So we don't know for sure if Adam dies. It is very, very strongly hinted at that Brian goes off with the bag with Kathy to go and find Adam in the hedge. So that's the function. Without Adam, the play doesn't exist. I should reference as well the fact that he's called Boy in the start of the character list at the start of the play. That is because as a reader or as a audience member, you don't want to be spoiled that the character's actually alive. And also by having a lowercase at the start of his name, it shows his status. He's not even worthy of a name as well, compared to like John Tate, who is so worthy he's got a last name. And then, you know, John Tate also loses his sanity as well. Now, if we were acting as Adam, or we were directing an actor, there are a few things that we could do to help bring his character to life. Now, vocally, there are a lot of things that are already in the script. Because of the ellipses, it's telling us when to put our dramatic pauses. But then there's also lots of commas as well, in terms of his sentences. He's constantly trying to correct himself. So it's almost like a stutter. And it's showing that he's thinking about what he's saying and he's trying to find the right words. So as an actor, or directing an actor, if we're talking about a vocal skill, you want to play around with pace, how fast or slow they are talking. You want to exaggerate this stutter, put emphasis when he's found the right word, so wake, woke, woke up. So finding that he said the right word, making it sound a little bit stronger to show that he's confident that he's found the word. So emphasis, you could also use the keyword intonation there. I think I've added an extra N. We'll just ignore the spelling. I have, there we go, we won't ignore it. I'll be good. Because some of you will hopefully be making notes for this. So if we're talking about vocal skills, playing around with pace, playing around with stutter, there's already the dramatic pauses in there. We're going to put emphasis and intonations in there. If we're talking about physical skills, eye contact is a big thing for him. It's kind of hinted at in the stage direction as well, but he is afraid, and one thing that you could do when you're afraid is figure out the different things you're looking at, and it also shows that his brain is working as he's talking. So eye contact's a big one. He also tells people I do know my name, so you can he's trying to be threatening, so you can show that through the eye contact as well. The other thing that I would do is I would use levels here, because he is going quite back to his animal roots. I would have him on the lowest level, possibly even centre stage. Just going to go into the design skills in a moment. Because that shows that he sees himself as different from the rest of the group, so isolated, but also that he maybe doesn't have as high of a status as other people. For example, you might have Phil stood up at the back where everybody else is sat around him. In your version, it might be different, I don't know. But levels is definitely a good thing here. You can also play around with changing the levels at a moment that stands out. So maybe it could be on the floor, but when he's talking about the light, high, 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 up, you could use him standing up and reaching an arm up to show that he's thinking about escaping the mine shaft and all of that. The other thing that you can think about here is the proxemic. So if you don't know what that means, it basically is space having meaning. So proximity, how close or far, but there's the meaning there as well. So I would have him isolated, centre stage, nobody else around him, because it shows that the others are afraid of him, but it also shows that they're afraid of the consequences of him being back as well. So there's a few examples of some things that you can do if Adam comes up in the extract. If we're talking about design skills, I'm going to try and be quick through this, but there's some things that you can do to bring Adam's character to life. So firstly, if you are doing lighting, we'll go for that one first. You can use a spot. You can also use a gobo. Could be a follow spot as well, to show that Adam is important in that moment. So if you're going for more abstract lighting, that is, you can have him literally monologuing, the rest of the lights dim around to maybe 50 or maybe less intensity, and then the spotlight is on him. The reason I say a gobo there as well, which is basically those shapes you see in lights, you could have the grid over him or leaves over him. So as he's talking, it looks like the light is shining through the trees on him. You could even put in a gel, like a straw coloured gel, to make that look more naturalistic too, if you are going more down the naturalistic route. It depends on what time of day you envisage the group finding Adam. A lot of people think it's kind of dusk, after school vibes that they find him. So lighting, make him the centre of attention, draw the audience focus to them to show that he is important for the whole story. If we're talking about costume, special effects makeup is important here to show his injuries. You can also reference other points in the play, so things like I was saying earlier about the cigarettes and the punch marks and bruising. You can have the fake blood and the injury as well. You can also maybe have other cuts and bruises, and you can also put that special effects makeup on his costume in terms of if he's wearing a white shirt, for example, because he's a school kid, maybe he was in a school uniform, you can have fake blood going down it. The condition, as in what his costume looks like, is really, really important here. So it would be muddy. He's literally been missing for months at this point. So it'd be muddy, it would be covered in blood and food and maybe lots of rips and holes in it. And the other thing is as well with the costume, because we're going to give him like this school uniform vibe, it's really, really easy for schools who probably are the types of people to put on this play to find those bits of costumes and to DIY the damage themselves. If we're talking about props and stage furniture, again, you could have something for him to sit on, like maybe a tree stump that moves on and off. You could also have something like leaves under the floor, so as he's walking around, he could maybe purposely crunch on the leaves beneath his foot. Because he's talking about how he's crawling out of the shaft and things as well. You could also have the act of physically crawling when he's saying that, and maybe he picks up the leaves and things as he's going. So you can have things for the actor to interact with during that bit, but I would keep it quite naturalistic for props here. Next up, we will talk about set. I think it's kind of similar in that way to that. You can keep it quite naturalistic, but again, the important thing for set is thinking about where the others are in relation to Adam and the proxemics. So if you're going to have like, you know, that sofa you randomly see in the woods that looks a bit tatty and has been dumped there, if you're going to have that like upstage left as your set, that it's always there in the woods scene, maybe you need to think about the absence of set for Adam. So maybe it's something really simple like a stump, or maybe it's literally just a pile of leaves on the floor, and you can show the difference between, you know, Phil who's sitting on a sofa and Adam who's down in the dirt. So they're kind of similar ideas there for set. In terms of sounds, you can go a couple of ways. You can go for sound effects here, so you can think about birds chirping or rustling leaves or wind. You can even exaggerate it, so as he's talking, these kind of sounds get louder and louder and the intensity, or the volume, should I say, increases. You can also talk about having music and sound effects together. So often a kind of piano, kind of emotive piece works here as well. So you can have a mix of that diegetic sound that they hear, like the wind and the leaves, and the non-diegetic, the music that enhances the mood and the atmosphere. Lastly, let's talk about staging. Remember, you can think about where your character exits and enters from. Some people bring Adam on during the transition from the field to the woods to kind of make the audience go, oh my God, and give them that chance to realise before Phil's first line, hello Adam. And again, you will have him centre stage. You would think about his entrance. But the other thing to consider is the sight line here, because I'm running out of room. Because, think about it, if you're having it on the lowest level centre stage, but you're in a school hall that doesn't have raked seating, that might make it really, really difficult for your audience to see what's going on. So you've got to think about giving everyone the opportunity to see. Also, if you're using a different type of staging, so in some of our previous school productions, we've used a traverse staging where Adam was literally in the middle of the catwalk, and we had the street on one end and the field on the other, woods in the middle, and Adam was in the middle of that. We had to make sure that we choreographed movement, probably a bit more movement than we wanted to, but it was more because of the sight lines, because he is that much of a focal point, that we decided to do that. So, hopefully this was useful. I will just step off screen so you can have a look at the big image itself in a second. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below. I'll try to answer them if I can. Also, if your exam is coming up soon, break a leg, I'm sure you will do absolutely fantastically. So, bye.